Okay, it is 8:30. It's time to call the meeting of Tuesday, September 23rd to order. Thank you for being here today. The first item is to approve the agenda, and just for everybody's knowledge here, we are removing the out-of-state travel for the VSO office staff from the consent, and it was also listed as an agenda addition, and that is also going to be removed. So item number one on the item on the consent and item number one on the agenda additions has been removed.
And I'll move to approve of the changes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens to be heard today on items not on the agenda? Any citizens to be heard? Any citizens to be heard? Okay, we'll move on. Approval of bills and vouchers.
So move.
Second. We have a motion to pay and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We'll move into our 8:35 item, and this is U.S. Fish and Wildlife fee acquisition on 7.5 acres in Section 3 of Tanson Township. And we have Lynn, right?
Yes.
Lynn Sabik?
Seaback.
Seaback, okay, all right.
And also with me today is the landowner Patrick Schindler.
All right, come on up, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
I have a nicer updated map of the acquisition. Unfortunately, Ryan Crowley, the manager from Detroit Lake, got his wires crossed on what time we're meeting today, so he's on his way, but I think hopefully this will be done by the time he arrives.
Okay.
I didn't tell him what time, but just a miscommunication, sometimes that happens.
Well, I'll bet you'll be able to handle it.
I hope so. Did everyone receive the packet?
Yes.
The August 25th date? That's great. Patrick Schindler and Michelle Schindler have entered into a purchase agreement with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to sell their building site, which is 7.5 acres. It's located in the northwest or southwest of Section 33 of Tanson Township. And I think you can see on the map that little chunk. And you're probably all well aware that that's surrounded by WPA now. The tract was purchased with outdoor heritage funds by Pheasants Forever, and it was donated to the Fish and Wildlife Service, and that closed, I think, in June. And so this building site will just become part of that, the WPA there. I believe the name of that WPA is the Hot production area. And the current use, it is a building site and it is classified as a rural residential site. I know this property is important for Ryan Crowley and Fish and Wildlife Service. It will be under the manager of the Detroit Lakes Wetland Management District, and unfortunately he's not here yet to speak. I know they want to, they have to clean the building site up, cap 2 wells on the property, take down some trees, so it can be just absorbed into the waterfall production area that is surrounding it. And as we're well aware, this property will come off the tax rolls. Once we close with the Schindlers, the Fish and Wildlife Service will make a county trust fund payment of $20,000 to Clay County to try to alleviate the loss of taxes on the property. I figured out the shared revenue payment would be approximately $330 per year for this parcel, and the current taxes are $1,466.
So can you repeat that again, the part about paying to the county for?
We make a one-time payment when we purchase property.
Okay.
A one-time payment, and it is calculated by, the amount we're paying the landowners.
Okay.
Of $20,000 for this parcel to help offset, the lack of tax income or, taxes paid by private individuals. Becomes taxes given.
Okay, so this never becomes part of the payment in lieu of taxes type of property?
Well, yes, the shared revenue. Then there will be a shared revenue payment that the county gets for all the
Okay, so it still qualifies for that.
Exactly, yeah. This is just a boost of that payment,
Okay.
since we realize our payments are pretty small.
Okay. And that payment in lieu of taxes, that's based on the state, or a formula with all the lands involved.
Right. For every county gets
Right, a certain amount, and you have
Right.
to divvy it up, yeah.
Yeah. So, are there any questions, I guess?
John, you had your hand.
Yeah, are there all the buildings,
This is your area.
right, are all the buildings going to be removed? Is that the plan? Okay.
We're gonna let, the Schindlers have done some updating to the property. We're gonna let them take out whatever they choose. I think they have a new furnace and air conditioner and stuff like that, so.
Where are you moving to, Pat?
Closer to work. Now, this property, do you are you, any of you familiar with the property? You've been by there.
You know where it's
It's
at?
about 8 miles west of Barnesville. East, I'm sorry. You would know better than I.
So the tax that's currently paid is $14.66
Right,
a year,
yeah.
and we'll get a payment, one-time payment of $20,000 plus annual payments.
Plus shared revenue
Bill
payment.
payment.
And that should be $330 for this parcel.
And that continues on.
That continues on. The $20,000 payment is a one-time payment. And I believe for the parcel surrounding it, at the end of August, the county received for that one, I think it was $42,000 payment for that parcel.
What's the Fish and Wildlife going to do with this property?
Well, it will become part of the waterfowl production area.
Okay, so
It will be,
open to hunting and...
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So the buildings will be all gone, and I don't know if Ryan has plans on some of the nicer buildings to try to sell them and move them off. Like I said, unfortunately, he's not here yet, so he can't answer that question, but some of the buildings are in kind of poor shape, so.
I'll move to approve.
Yeah, I'll second.
We have a motion by Grant, second by Wayne. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. All right, that's done. You certainly can.
One you keep and one I take. If you could sign on the certified for acquisition, line, that would be appreciated.
Jenny, want to see?
Good luck, Pat, in your move.
Need to see this?
Yeah.
I'm going to just have Jenny, we'll get it to
When you
you.
build a new house, we'll give you a tax break today, so that's, yeah.
So why don't you, you can take a seat back there for a minute, and as soon as she approves it, I'll sign it, and we can get it to
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you.
Okay, our next item is 840, is a discussion regarding the renewal of a 2-year residential property tax rebate program, and then it would require us to set a public hearing for October 14th, 2014. And we have Morgan City Manager Michael Redlinger. Good morning, Mike. And Community Service Director Scott Hutchins. Good morning, Scott. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners, for having us through this morning. We'll be brief. Just want to give you a few highlights from our Make Morehead Home rebate program. Things have gone really well in the last couple of years for housing in Morehead, and thanks to your support and the support of Morehead Area Public Schools and the City Council of Morehead, we've seen a really good return on some of the housing that we lost in 2008, 2009, 2010, and we've really seen it come back strong. So we're going to talk this morning just briefly about the rebate program and an extension of that program for a period of 2 years. The rebate, as you will recall, for those of you who have been on the commission for some time, the rebate was a program that was initially state paid, and it was actually an abatement program first, and then it became a locally opted-in program that we did for a period, all 3 jurisdictions, capital jurisdictions, and now we're looking to renew that program for another 2 years. I think it's important to note that the housing industry has remarked pretty candidly that this has been a real important tool for Morehead to have. It levels their playing fields with Fargo and with West Fargo, where there's been a standard practice for some time to have some level of property tax abatement. So the program here is one that is supported both by the Home Builders Association, of course, a lot of our local builders, and and the Association of Realtors. I just wanted to note the support of these particular groups because they are really on the front lines for presenting Moorhead, presenting Dilworth, and our other communities as a viable option for those individuals looking to locate within the Fargo-Moorhead metropolitan area. The other piece that we've done at the same time is we've been working on the rebates, is work on a lot of direct community marketing. And I won't get into a great detail on that this morning, but just note that we've done a lot of work with our recent home buyers that have moved into Moorhead just to try and learn a bit more about what motivated them to come to Moorhead and not go to Fargo or not go to West Fargo, et cetera. I just wanted to note a couple of highlights from a survey that we just completed in the last year. We did a survey this year of approximately 205 individuals who had selected Moorhead, and they constructed new homes or remodeled new homes in Moorhead. And some of the data, which was really interesting, we wanted to share a couple of highlights. 33% response rate on all surveys distributed, so about 205 people responded. 89% of these Moorhead homebuyers surveyed said they were satisfied or very satisfied with neighborhoods. And 71.4% of these home buyers surveyed said they were satisfied or very satisfied with the affordability and cost of living in Moorhead. So we thought that was excellent data to receive. And most interestingly, 37% of the respondents, only 37%, lived in Moorhead before buying their current home. In fact, 34% lived in Fargo or West Fargo, and 7% came from outside of Minnesota or North Dakota or from an entirely different country. So we thought that was really interesting, that not only are these new residents satisfied with the neighborhoods and their affordability, they really deliberately chose Moorhead over other locations. And that was just something we found very interesting. A couple of other notes just about housing for 2014 and beyond. What we've seen already is just a good resurgence of single-family home construction this year. Year to date, about 115 units, probably on our way to hopefully 130, 140 units by the time the year is out. But the one good thing about the investment decisions being made present day is that all of these building lots are flood elevated or they are out of the floodplain altogether. And that's not the case, of course, when we look to our neighbors to the west. The community now in Moorhead alone, over $105 million of direct investment. State of Minnesota, about $70 million in the balance local dollars to try and improve our flood circumstance. So for our flood mitigation program, it's really helped us, we think, get some resiliency back in the market and really show some good gains. I thought that was just a really positive thing. And then one last note, too, is the county commission knows and understands we did also receive in the community a fair number of tax forfeit lots. These are single-family lots that came back through the tax rolls. We worked with your staff, we worked with the county to try and get those lots back into productivity, get them to be built upon. And we're pleased that of 163 tax forfeit lots that were brought back to the city to remarket it, we only have 18 remaining available. So we have actually had a lot of interest and a lot of demand for those tax forfeit lots in Moorhead. 87 closed or pending sales, and 58 are under option agreement to be able to be sold and then be built on yet this fall, perhaps next spring. So that's gone really well, and we just wanted to acknowledge and thank you for your support of that too. That's gone really well, and thank your staff. So in talking about the rebate, again, year to date, if you were to look at where we're at on 117 units constructed.
Hang on, Mike, we're going to try to get your echo thing resolved. Are you still hearing that echo?
We'll
You
try
don't have to start. You don't have to start all over again.
No, we won't. We're just about done, we promise. Just like going to the dentist.
Yes.
But just wanted to speak briefly about the number of units constructed then. So 117 units year to date in 2014. What does that mean as a board? What does it mean as a city council? Of those 117 units, the amalgamated number is about $206,000 of rebate cost to the city, about $66,000 to the county, $87,000, and to the school, $52,000. So that just gives you kind of a sense that we're all in this when we participate in the abatement program, or in this case, the rebate program, because there is not really one entity that shares more pain than another. We're all pretty balanced in that regard. So the rebate cost is something that it is not an insignificant number, but it is not a number that is well up into the six figures, approaching seven figures. It's something that's a modest way to send a really good message to the housing industry in Moorhead. So that's the request. We just appreciate the past support and your interest in wanting to continue to help us assist. Brought Scott with me today too. Scott and our legislative team put together the particulars of the initial program, and then these folks have been pretty instrumental in carrying it forward to the present day. So it's gone really well, and again, we just thank you for your past support and strongly consider you to ask you to consider future support as well. Thanks.
Well, Michael, just to make a couple comments here, it's hard to not recognize some of the successes that have been going on in Moorhead lately. It's kind of really nice to see all those positive things in the paper and in the news media, radio, what have you, about how Moorhead is growing. You talked about your survey and you asked all these different questions, and I like the answers that you gave there. How about, was there anything asked of them of the significance of the rebate offer as part of their reason for
Yes,
coming in?
There was. Actually, it was in a question set presented that was a rank your top 3 choices for selecting. So the rebate will not break into the top 3 of those choices. I don't have the full data set with me, but it was an important factor. It was not the only factor. And I think the response to that question is, it is certainly an extra consideration for them. It is not the only reason you would select Moorhead. That quality neighborhood, that affordability element might come first before that, but it's certainly a piece that factors in. And as the home builders and the realtors told us, it's also something that when we talk about marketing, we just want to make sure if they're at all swayable, that this isn't something that's off the table in terms of swaying the other way if we didn't have it. So that's something that we did learn in the program. We're definitely going to keep doing these surveys. This is the most data we've had in all of the years I've been a part of the city. And to have this kind of response rate and this type of feedback from individuals saying they really like their homes, they really like the neighborhoods, they really want to live in Minnesota, that's great. That's exactly what we want to be here.
Yeah, that's good. Grant.
I'm just going to say congratulations, Mike, Scott, Pete. You guys this has been an excellent program, obviously, and I support it 100%. I guess what's good for the city of Moorhead is good for Clay County, and so, it looks like it'll get even better in the next couple of years. So, great work.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and we just want to thank to the housing industry for really responding well in these tax forfeit lots. We all as taxing jurisdictions. I'll tell you, I was responding to a council member question. I didn't think in 2014, looking in 2015, that we'd be in the position we are on these tax forfeit lots to see that much movement on that many lots. To me, those are builders that are choosing flood protection, they're choosing higher elevations, they're choosing Minnesota. That's a good shot in the arm for all of us.
And they're choosing lower property taxes.
Also true.
John.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that as I was going door to door and so on in South Moorhead, there were whole blocks that were there that weren't on the maps. The maps were supposed to be current, and yet you'd find, where did this come from? It's a whole new area, and so it's really exciting to see that kind of growth. And from Highway 75, it's exciting every day. It seems like there's a new condo built out there to the east of the road, so that's great. So those lots that were returned to the city are being used very well. So,
one of the other things for people to think about, when we do these types of things, and there's some people that question, well, why do you do that? Why do you give them that? And I think it's kind of proven time and time again that it enhances or it speeds up the ability to get something of value on that property versus letting it. Without that rebate, there's a good chance, there's a reason why it probably went delinquent in the first place. Right. And so with that being said, it could be very likely, and Scott, you've been around this long enough to know too, that the city could have ended up sitting on those things with nobody paying taxes anyway for several more years, and then the infrastructure that's there is being paid for by all the citizens of Moorhead. So to get those things back, and I'm assuming when some of these parcels get back on, special assessments are getting back on, which then helps the cities not having to cover those delinquent specials. So it all works to the benefit of the city in the long run. It's an unfortunate deal that you ever have to get put in the position where you have delinquent property, but But, yeah, so I think the rebate, I think, pays, or the abatement thing pays off. So, any other comments or questions?
I make a motion to approve this resolution.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Is the resolution for the policy?
Yes. We have a separate deal on the hearing, right, for,
So I think there's two ways to move forward on that. I had some concern because the statute indicates if you're going to grant an abatement, you need to have a public hearing and allow the public to comment on the abatement, just like we did in some of the Holly properties, and we had Alderon and some of those folks come ask for an abatement. And we need to publish and have notice for a public hearing. What I'm concerned about is if we pass a policy that locks this board into granting an abatement at the end of it would be at the end of next year, it's really not giving the public the adequate notice.
okay.
So the resolution could be passed with some kind of, I guess, clause or exception saying that it's still subject to verification or
Jenny?
confirmation later in the year, but I wouldn't want the board to feel like we've passed a policy and then when we come back at the end of the calendar year with all the list of properties, that there's no turning back at that point, because the public does have to be offered an opportunity to give their input.
Okay. All right. So, so we need to reconsider this motion here then.
Yeah. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Maybe we should just wait until after the public hearing to have a resolution motion. Is that what you're saying, Jenny?
Well, I think that's one way to do it. We could publish as early as next Monday and have a public hearing, I believe, on the 11th.
No, that'd be the 14th.
Excuse me, the 14th. And ask for public input at that time as to the propriety of a abatement in this fashion, or we can somehow modify the resolution to say that it's contingent upon final approval of the properties at a later date.
Did we approve this last time? Didn't we approve this?
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
did.
Did we have a hearing then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we did again after the fact.
Does this time, a little bit of time work out okay for your situation?
Makes no difference to you guys.
Well, I think if timing isn't of issue, I think what we should do then is to set this up where it's always better if you have to have a public hearing that you do that first and make your decision after the public hearing as
Yeah.
opposed to. Scott.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask a question. So the intent is to hold a public hearing on the policy and then hold a later public hearing on the parcels to actually specify the amount of abatement property.
I think that would be the best way to accommodate public comment, because there could be a member of the public that has a comment as to the policy as a whole, and there could be members of the public that have comments as to specific parcels later in the year.
But
So-
the hearing that we would schedule for the 14th would be on the policy itself. We'd have an open public hearing on that, and, following that hearing, depending on what we hear at the hearing, we could decide on what we're going to do with the policy. So at this point, would there be consideration to remove the?
Well, I'll remove, but hasn't the school board approved this, and did they have hearings too, or they need hearings too, or?
Well, that's up to those entities and what their legal counsel advises them.
Okay. I'll rescind my motion.
Is that okay?
I'll
Second?
withdraw my second.
Withdraw your second, okay. All right, so there's no motion on. So what we would need next then, so you're okay with, it's not going to harm what you guys are, okay,
I move that we set a public hearing for October 14th for this issue.
for the policy regarding the 2-year residential property tax abatement. Okay. We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. All right, well, we'll see what the public says on the 14th. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, Karen, I noticed that you drove in all the way from Barnesville. I'm assuming you were here on this issue.
I was.
Did you want to make any comments while you're here in support of or anything, or what was your, or did you have concerns with it, or?
No, and I certainly will come back to
Okay.
the public hearing. But
Okay.
Barnesville is very appreciative of past support
Yeah.
and hopes that the commissioners will move forward with the extension.
Well, that's been good for Barnesville too, hasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Very good. All right, thank you, Karen. Okay, so with that, we will move into our 8:50 item, which means we go into closed session. And with the Pete, did you have something you were here for too?
Pete's here for the closed session,
Oh, you're, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right, okay.
as well as,
Okay, all right, so,
yeah.
yep, okay, so
I'll move to close.
we have a motion to close. Is there a second? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. All right. Okay, we'll reconvene our meeting here. We had gone into closed session, and now that we're back in session, it was moved by Grant and second by John to move back into open session. And with that, we were in closed session regarding some issues in pending tax court in a case between Menards versus Clay County. And it's now an opportunity to talk about what we had in closed session, if you'd like to. And
Well, I'd like to start, Mr. Chair, by making a motion that we hire outside legal counsel and appraisal services for the Menards tax court case to be split with the city of Moorhead 50/50, contingent on the Moorhead City Council's approval of the same.
okay, we have a motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. And obviously, this is in regards to a difference in opinion of what they think their value is and what the city and the county believe their value is. All right, so we'll move on to our next agenda item, and this is a request for an extension to update Clay County Comprehensive Local Water Management Plan, and Lynn Foss is here with this Water Resource Management. So, Clay County Soil Conservation District. Good morning, Lynn.
Good morning. I guess the resolution is something that we were asked to do by our involvement the Board of Water and Soil Resources, our Board of Conservation, Brett Carney. There is a whole host of things which I think is spelled out pretty well in the cover letter, why we are requesting this volunteer. Just because of the increased technology and information that's out there will be coming out. They feel that it's in the best interest to pay or request the extension for the water plan. It's something that should coincide with other counties, the One Watershed, One Plan program that they're currently in the pilot stage of. It just seemed to be a logical thing to do, I guess. So it's something that the water plan is the county water plan, so therefore it goes through county commissioners.
Okay, and so by, so we're basically requesting an extension, right? So the current water plan would just stay in force then until
Yes.
it would be renewed in 2016?
Exactly, by the end of 2016. Or
Sooner if it's ready.
yeah, or depending on if this One Watershed, One Plan program comes out,
Yeah.
the whole county water, local water plan may go away and it will be restored to this One Watershed, One Plan process. So
Very good.
I just want to comment, I was on the committee that worked with establishing that with Bowser to get the One Watershed, One Plan thing, and it's going to be confusing the first go-around because you got to get the counties all working together, or in some cases, each county has several watersheds, like we've got two. It gets to be some complication, but in the end, it should be really a good thing in that we only have one plan for each watershed rather than currently there's three different plans that have three different agencies that require water plans, and they don't always are not always consistent. So I think in the long run, this is going to be a good thing, and obviously we need some extensions in order to get it all working together to make it happen. So I would move the resolution.
Okay, resolution 2014-41. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Anything else then?
One other question. We will move forward. We will be holding an advisory committee meeting here in the near future. Brent Arney will probably come and just explain the process as it is to that point. In the past, Commissioner Ingersoll has served as part of that advisory committee. Is he still representative from the county commissioners or the representative else?
Do you know when that would be, Lynn?
I haven't.
Thank you.
I have
It's
your
been some
email.
time since we met.
Right.
Yeah, more than a couple of
And
days.
that we get- So I have your email once we get everything figured out. We'll send an email.
You could have a different, if I may, Mr. Chair, you could have a,
And move that one.
well, it's been a while. That's the one you want there.
Okay, that would be perfect.
All right.
So we will be getting an email shortly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn.
Okay, next we have our 2013 audit report. Robert Johnson from the State Auditor's Office, and we've got Stacy and Laurie here. Do you guys want to come up too? No?
They make you do it alone.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, good morning. First of all, I just wanted to point out that the audit went very well this year. And the reason for that is you guys have a great staff.
First lady over there.
No, seriously, you do have a very, very good staff that does prepare everything for the audit. And that does really help us out a lot when we're going through and doing the audit. Today, I'm just going to summarize some of the financial information, and we'll quickly go through the schedule of findings. And when I say quickly go through the schedule of findings, I really mean that. You only have 2 findings this year to report on. So your report is a very, very good report for 2013. From what I understand, you've been provided handouts in the packet. So we'll start out going through some of those handouts. The very first handout, it's numbered handout number 1, obviously. That handout contains a lot of financial information. The very top part of that handout, we have financial information on the government-wide financial basis. Then we'll move down into some fund-level financial information and go through that. I'll start out at the very top. Net position for Clay County at December 31st, 2013 was $117,415,000. That's up about $1 million, a little bit over $1 million from the previous year, just under 1% increase. The net investment in capital assets went up $2,478,000. Governmental activities increased about $2,219,000, and that was due to a net increase in capital assets, mainly due to infrastructure, the roads and bridges and things like that. $3,621,000, and that was offset by an increase in net debt related to the capital assets of about $955,000. Business type activities increased about $259,000. That's due mainly to the window project at the Family Service Center across the street there. Restricted net position went up about $8,101,000. That's due to an increase in restricted for highways and streets. So that's the main reason. That amounted to about $7,984,000 of that increase. Your unrestricted net assets went down about $9,532,000. That's kind of the net effect of everything. The thing that I want to point out about the unrestricted net assets, the unrestricted net position, change in terminology a couple years ago, is that that's the part that's available for the board to make decisions on. So you've actually got about $9 million less in that position that you can make the decisions on, because they're tied up in capital assets and restricted for other purposes. Any questions on the government-wide? Okay. I'm going to move down to first talk a little bit about cash balances. The general fund had a cash balance of $6,782,000 on December 31st. The state auditor has a recommendation that you have enough cash to sustain operations at least until your levies start coming in. We usually use 6/12 of annual expenditures as kind of a basis of the recommendation. At December 31st, 2013, you had enough cash to sustain the general fund for about 4.3 months. So you're a little bit shy of what our recommendation is for the cash in the general fund. The Road and Bridge Fund had a cash balance of $1,167,000. That would sustain operations in the Road and Bridge Fund for about a month. But the Road and Bridge Fund does have revenues coming in consistently throughout the year, so we're not concerned about, the cash balance being lower in the Road and Bridge and Social Services Fund. Your Social Service Fund had a cash balance of $7,821,000, and that would cover operations about 5.5 months if you have other revenues coming in. Again, you have consistent revenues coming in, more consistent revenue coming in that fund too. I know Clay County always likes me to kind of point out that you also have an internal service fund. And in the internal service fund, you had a cash balance of $2,139,000 at December 31st. That's almost double of what your expenditures for 2013 were for that fund. So if you continued with expenditures being the same in 2014, you would have enough cash to sustain 20 months of operations in that fund. So I know you like me to point that out because that's resources that are available. Should something happen in the general fund, you could transfer money.
And typically, that doesn't fall into the recommended equation that the
That's
state
right,
has.
yeah.
But yet it's still money we have that we can use
Correct.
as we want.
Yeah. Any questions on the cash balances? You can see off to the far right side that cash decreased in the general fund about $300,000, increased in the Road and Bridge Fund about $69,000, decreased in social services of about $113,000. So, any questions on cash? I'm going to keep moving on. The state auditor also has some recommendations for fund balance, and the recommendation is basically based on the unrestricted fund balance, that you should have enough unrestricted fund balance to cover at least 5 months of operations, and it should range somewhere between 35 to 50% of your operating revenues. And that recommendation is based on all governmental fund types. I break it down by individual funds so that you can kind of have a feel for how each of the funds are doing. In your general fund, the unrestricted fund balance was $5,417,000. That's about 3.4 months worth of expenditures and about 28% of your operating revenues. The Road and Bridge Fund had a deficit unrestricted fund balance of $490,000. Obviously, that falls way below our range in both of the tests. And Social Services had an unrestricted fund balance of $7,311,000. That's about 5.2 months of operations and about 45% of your operating revenues. If you looked at all governmental funds, you would have had an unrestricted fund balance of $12,352,000. It's not on your handout. And that's about 2.76 months of expenditures and about 25% of operating revenues. So you're falling below the state auditor's recommendation as far as your unrestricted fund balances overall.
Well, I have one question for you. When we look at the Road and Bridge Fund, and we're right now showing that negative 490, but technically we had revenues from prior projects that we hadn't received and couldn't be accounted for. Does that comes into play?
That comes into play, yes.
So it's kind of in a way, this is kind of an unfair when you consider we just couldn't record the receivable as income.
Correct.
But we have money coming in from
At the
prior.
fund level, yes.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Okay. I wanted to point that out to the rest of the board members. So even though it looks bad here, there's money. We just legally, according to state law, we couldn't record it for this time?
Right. You've had enormous expenditures take place in the road and bridge fund for highway projects that
With revenues
you
still
may
to come.
have not received the revenues within the
that's
revenue
correct.
recognition period. And that's pretty typical, and that's
Right.
why the road and bridge fund is a tough fund to analyze on a yearly basis. You have to kind of look at it over time. Some years it goes way up, some years it goes way down because of the revenue recognition and when the expenditures took place and when you actually receive your reimbursement for those expenditures. Just to note, total fund balances for the general fund decreased about $608,000. You're showing a positive total fund balance in the road and bridge fund. That went up about $8,830,000. But you got to keep in mind that you did issue road bonds, issued over $10,000 or $10 million of the road bonds. That's why that's in a positive position. The social service fund had a deficit, or a decline of about $638,000 from the previous year. Any questions related to that? Nope. I'm moving on to handout number 2. I'm presenting things a little bit differently this year. I've got some graphs that I put in there this year that I haven't presented in the past. I don't like the idea of graphs because you can look at graphs really quickly and see some of the things that are happening. The first handout I have is dealing with revenues. And it's kind of a comparison over the last 5 years of what's happened with the revenues. And when you first look at the graphs, a couple things just jump right out at you. The revenues in Clay County, the strong revenues are the tax revenues and the intergovernmental revenues. Those are the two really main revenues in the county. The other revenues, I mean, you do have other revenues coming in, but as a percentage of all their total revenues, they're pretty small. Over the 5-year period, the taxes have gone up a little bit each year for a 5-year period. I'm going to kind of jump into intergovernmental revenue because that's the other really large one. That was on the, it was going up. It kind of peaked out in 2011. 2011 is when you had a lot of monies coming in from flood buyouts and that type of stuff. So that accounts for why that peaked out in 2011. We had over $3 million coming from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources for the flood buyouts. Other than that, I think you can kind of just look at these graphs and you just you can see exactly what your revenues are doing. Any questions on the revenues? I've got the numbers up above too, so a couple of these smaller revenues, it's really hard to look at the graph, but if you look at the numbers up above, you'll see what kind of trends we have there.
Bob, I got a question about the, if you look at the totals on the top sheet or top graph or chart, why are we receiving actually less money in 13 than we did in previous years, total revenues?
Lower dollars from the state.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. If you take a look at the graph of the intergovernmental revenues, the shared revenues have actually gone down, but the market value credits have declined. That's a large portion of why that's probably happening out like that.
Okay.
It's a combination of between federal and state assistance.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? I'm going to move on to the expenditure handout there. As you can see, again, kind of quickly looking at it, some of the higher expenditures are the human service expenditures, highways and streets, public safety, and general government. If you look at general government, again, I'm going to point out that peaked in 2011. That's, again,
Flood buyouts.
purchasing flood buyouts. So it corresponds with that revenue.
That was offset the revenue.
Yep. Yep. I just wanted to point that out. Public safety kind of was extra high in 2009. Well, that's when the flood was taking place. So we had a lot of extra expenditures then. Highways and streets, as you can see, kind of bounces around in those because you're doing large projects some years, the next year you're not doing as many projects. So that's kind of typical. It does kind of bounce around. The rest of it's pretty stable. Human services have kind of dropped down a little bit downward trend to 2011 and has kind of come back up a little bit as far as the expenditures the last couple of years. But any questions on that? I mean, I think the graphs with the numbers kind of explains it out.
I'd just like to say, Mr. Chair, for me, the graphs are very easy to understand, more so than the numbers, and appreciate it very much.
Yeah, that's why I decided to start putting some graphs.
Our chair can look at the numbers and got it.
I like numbers, Bob.
We'll keep them both.
Yeah, and I think that 2011 too, when when we started seeing some of the reductions in the human services, that again goes to the, we saw lower revenues coming in from the state, and we also, with that then forced us to have lower services.
Yep.
So.
But I remember those times. I remember watching some of the board meetings and some of the discussions related to that. The next three handouts are just dealing with the fund balances, and I'm only showing the fund balances going back for 3 years. The reason that is we haven't put again 54 back in 2011, so prior to 2011, the way the definitions of the fund balances were different. My intentions are next year you'll see 4 years and then 5 years, and from there on forward there will be a 5-year kind of comparison. If you, again, looking at the graphs, and these are pretty self-explanatory, you can take a look and see that from 2011 to 2012, both the total fund balance and unrestricted fund balance went up in the general fund. They came back down some in 2013. I'm just going to kind of go through these very fast.
Correct. That's absolutely.
Road and Bridge, we have pretty significant deficits in 2011. They improved in 2012, and improved again in 2013. And I just kind of want to point out that we went from unrestricted deficit of over $2 million to a deficit unrestricted of $490,000 in the Road and Bridge Fund. So you're getting there. Total fund balance went from a deficit of $2,301,000 up to a positive $8,279,000. Again, a lot of that's related to issue debt and things like that. It doesn't show up in the operating financials. Social service fund, that went up in 2012. It's kind of come back out, both the total fund balance and fund balance in 2013. Any questions related to that? Do you like the graphs?
No, I do. I like the report. Good report.
Okay. Then I'm going to move on to the schedule, findings and custom costs. You notice that this shouldn't take very long. You only have 2 findings. The very first page is there to the send water. And when you send them the package and clearinghouse, they can tell a lot about the account just looking at this one page. First of all, we gave you an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. That's a good opinion. That's the one that you want. You did have a couple of findings. One of them we considered material weakness, the other one is significant deficiency. There was no findings of non-compliance material to the financial statements. For the federal awards, we had no findings at all. So, of course, we gave you a non-modified opinion over compliance of the federal awards. We've got a lot of programs listed there this year. We ended up having to test, as we go through our formulas to determine which federal programs we have to test. We ended up having to test quite a few for that time year.
Do the feds give you what to audit, or does the
So they basically set up the guidance, and we have to go through all the various formulas. We have findings in the past in the program. It's higher risk, and so on and so forth. But yeah, we have to kind of go through this whole formula to come up with what programs we have to test. It's something that we have, there's all sorts of things related to it. It's been tested in the last 2 years, and we have no issues with that program. It's obviously lower risk and so on and so forth. But for 2013, Clay County, for the federal audit purposes, is not considered a low risk county. What that means is that we have to test $100 loan federal awards. The first item that we got reported is an item that we reported basically in every county in the state of Minnesota. It's dealing with segregation of duties. What we're talking about in this funding is that we have a number of departments where you collect fees. And in those departments that you collect fees, there's a limited number of staff members. So a lot of times you'll have the same person who's collecting the fees, recording those fees, until they accumulate a certain amount, and then they bring it over to the treasurer's office. Once it's brought over to the treasurer's office, of course, the treasurer has the custody function, the auditor's office has the record-keeping function, so things do get segregated out at that point. But for that period of time where those fees are accumulating out in various departments, that's the area that we're concerned about, that we always give you a reminder. Part of it is that seems to be the departments that, when we have issues, it's usually the smaller fee offices because of the lack of segregation fees. So our recommendation, obviously, is as much oversight as possible. You have to be reasonable about it, obviously. You don't want to hire another staff person and pay them $30,000 a year to protect your $10,000 a year worth of collections coming in. But that's, there are certain things you can do, variance analysis, things like that.
But that's a finding that you're going to find just about everywhere.
That's a finding you find just about everywhere, yeah. And the second finding that we have is dealing with an audit adjustment. We ended up, as I mentioned when I started out, your staff does a really, really great job with regard to the audit. On one of the worksheets, they made a mistake. And it rolled over into the financial statements, and when we came along to audit, we noticed that mistake. It just happened to be that it's a very large dollar amount, and that's why we have to report it as a material audit adjustment. During our audit, an adjustment was necessary to properly reflect the components of the county's net position by reducing the unrestricted net position and increasing net investment in capital assets by $8,826,000. Basically, what that's doing is in your government-wide financial statements, when you started out, the very first numbers we talked about, we moved from unrestricted net position up into restricted for capital assets, or net investment in capital assets. I don't feel bad about it because everything else was done just great, and it was just an error. But like I said, that's why it's in there. It's just that from an audit standpoint, you can't rely on the auditors and internal controls. I guess our recommendation is, before things get put in the financial statements, make sure there's a review process and make sure that not only the person that prepared the information, but somebody else looks it over to make sure that we don't have an error there. Then we had some items that we reported last year that have been resolved. One's dealing with the network application password controls. Last year you haven't updated your network controls. This year you've made some changes. At the time of our audit, you were in the process of rolling those changes on a department basis. And we were told that all would be in place by summer of 2014. We also reported last year an issue with income maintenance reporting, the 2550 report. We had some employees that were reported as random moment study employees that weren't involved in the random moment study. The county's taking steps to ensure that only random moment employees get reported in category A of the 2550 report. And, during our testing of 2550 reports, we noted no problems at all this year, so that item's been resolved. We had another item that we previously reported. It was withholding affidavit for contractors, the IC 134. Before you make final payment to a contractor, you've got to get documentation from the Department of Revenue that the contractors and subcontractors have withheld for the employees. This year, during all our contract testing, we noted no problems with the county not obtaining the IC 134s in the contracts that were required. And then last year, we have the road and bridge deficit fund balance of about $551,000 as of December 31st, 2013. The road and bridge total fund balance was $8,279,000. So that item's been resolved. So that's all I had to present today. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Is this actual cash sitting unrestricted?
Not necessarily. But it is, that's got it. Okay.
Other assets too.
Mr. Chair, would you like to handle those two additions?
Okay, we can. Yeah, we can do those real quickly. Okay, we're going to go to our agenda additions here. First one is to authorize execution of a quitclaim deed, county-owned parcel in the city of Glendon. And Laura, you're going to...
Yeah, basically, this is a piece of tax forfeited property that we sold, and after the sale, it was discovered there was over $70,000 worth of special assessments on this parcel. And so we then bought it back from them, or got the property back and refunded their money. So it's been sitting as Clay County property for the last couple of years, and there was an interested buyer, so we did put it out for bid. Did the publication, and we had one bidder, so we just need to approve it. So.
Okay, and that bidder, then the buyer, ends up realizing the specials go back on the property, correct? Okay. All right, is there a motion to, so we're executing a quitclaim deed then?
Correct.
All right.
Motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so motion carried.
Thank you very much.
I'll get, you want, I can sign that afterwards. Okay, agenda addition item number 3, request to fill half-time mailroom position. Good morning, Georgia.
We recently received a resignation from our 50% employee in the mailroom. She actually took a full-time position in the social service department, so we're glad for her, but sorry to see her go. She's a good employee. But we're looking to replace the position. It's actually a 50% position, but they work 8 to 4:30 every other week, Monday through Friday. The position also shares, we contract out with social services, so for 4 hours of the 8-hour day, 4 hours they work for social services, which we get reimbursement for.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve George's request.
We have a second.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, Brian, we're going to review this capital improvement program here.
At the last board meeting, you asked me to update the report, and I will not take credit for the report, although I will. I mean, there's a lot of work in it, but Georgia and Joe and Kate put a lot of work into doing the updates on this and making sure they're correct and things. So we'll try to just run through it or whatever format you want to follow, but if you want to go to priority 1, this was laid out in priority 1, 2, 3s, and then future considerations. So if you want to kind of center on the first column, that's the first 3 years, and under the original courthouse, there wasn't anything that was listed on priority 1s. Law Enforcement Center, it was replaced the roof, replaced the windows, replaced the ECT, that's vinyl floor covering with some tile, and replaced 5 showers with the stainless steel. That has all been completed. And if you remember, Mr. Chair, we did that out of the I'll call them Fund 19. Fund 19 is where we transfer $100,000 into it each year. And we had to do that. That was about $180,000 project. And we did that out of Fund 19, not out of the bonding money of the 2.3, because that was before we had done our capital improvement plan. The annex, we did replace the smoke detectors and the fire alarms. And the annex is the old sheriff's residence where we have the minimums carried, just for everybody's information on that. Juvenile center, there's nothing there that has been done in regards to, there has been stuff work, but you'll see that it wasn't listed on the architect's update. Family Service Center, replaced the first first floor roof replaced windows in the towers, in fact, we replaced all the windows in there, and replaced the windows in the lower level. That's all been done. The power plant, we replaced the cooling towers. They were quite expensive. I think they were nearly $45,000, if I'm not mistaken. Motor vehicle, we provided fire alarm systems out there, replacing north window. In fact, we did a whole lot more, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get over to the additional items. So we have completed everything that was listed on the architect's list in priority 1, which was the first 3 years. Priority 2, which was the 3 to 5 year time span from 2013 to 2015, we replaced the roof on the courthouse. That is complete. In the law enforcement center, we repaired the stucco on some exterior walls that had been banged up. We replaced the stainless steel sinks, toilet support walls, and 4 cell block area. That really kind of runs into the shower areas and things. The law enforcement center, what in red we have not done, it was said that we needed to do within the next 5 years, and that was replace upgrade security equipment, touchscreens, added cameras, and monitoring recorders. Julie has been to the board twice and asked for funds for that. Funds are included in here, but that was the 41.5 where we asked last year. We have set some dollars aside in the internal service fund, and she'll be coming later next month. She'll be coming in next month to ask to move forward on that. She was given tentative approval that if it crashed, to go ahead and do it, and now she's going to come in and ask for the upgrade on that. So that will be taken care of as well. So we're really right on target on that. We resurfaced the north parking lot of the law enforcement center, and that was shared with the city. Then we jumped to the family service center. We replaced the upper roof and the tower. We resurfaced the left parking lot between the power plant and the family service center. If you remember right, that was a huge deal. It was $300,000 because we put in concrete versus the asphalt. And they said that will give us a 50-year life on that parking lot. So we resurfaced the west parking lot north of the power plant. Kind of runs together there. And the power plant itself, we replaced the fire alarm, annunciator panel that services the family service center. So the 3 to 5 years, with the exception of what she's bringing in for security purposes, has all been done. Then we jump to the 5 to 10 year priority list. In the law enforcement center was replacing the security observation glass, and I'll jump to the second one, upgrading the electrical service. Upgrading the electrical service in the law enforcement center is a big, big, big project. And I think, in fact, due to the fact that we are reviewing replacing that building, you might not want to do that. So that is still sitting out there. We did, however, go into the basement, and we did provide some better ventilation with some air handling and some fresh air being sucked into some of those lower levels. The annex, we did reshingle the roof there. That was just done last summer. The juvenile center, replacing the roof there, and frankly, that is under study right now. Joe just received some bids on that, or some quotes, I should say, because he's working with Steve, and the breakout, that's 2/3 paid for by the security, and 1/3 paid by the non-secure. But that is pushing forward, and that will be done fairly soon, probably next spring. Resurfacing the east parking lot, and that is out in front of the family service center over here. That appears to be about in the same shape as it is out front here, so I think we've got a few more years on that, and that would be just a resurface on that asphalt anyway. Not to say that it'll cost quite a bit of money, but it will. The motor vehicle down here, you'll see that upgrade mechanical system, and that is in red. And when we went ahead with the remodeling project there, we were told that the mechanical system was in good shape. We're finding out that it's not in such good shape, Joe. But if you remember right, the new part that we added a new heating and air conditioning and controls and everything in here. And probably the biggest problem here is the control system with motor vehicle, and Joe has been also working on that, and we will get that up to satisfaction as well. It's been working well. The air conditioners worked really well this summer when they moved back, but we will get that taken care of too. The future considerations, that's not in red because that's just out there in the distant future. There's some concrete floors and things. But down in the power plant, the replacement of the it says DOC, but it's DDC controls, and that's some jail heating issues. And again, how much do we want to invest in that when we're looking at maybe 4 or 5 years out of a replacement to that? And then others, the campus electrical generator for the LEC and the JDC and the courthouse, that is their backup system. The reason why that is not in use anymore is because of EPA standards that changed. That would be, I think, about an $80,000 replacement, or maybe even more than that, and we haven't done that yet. And I don't know that, we'll have to talk about that at some future date. Then we get to the additional items at the courthouse. The condensation return tank, it circulates, it's a big issue of the tank to the roof that recirculate things. We've had to change that. We repaired the sewer drainage system in the north side restroom. If you remember right, we have 2 restroom systems now, and they were about a $35,000 bill apiece. They were both the north and the south sides, and frankly, it was a little disgusting, but when we tore apart the wall, and the tenants and the occupants had been complaining about odor within this building, and we actually found discharge from those pipes that they were rusted out, and so it was really, really, really well needed, long overdue. We put in about a $40,000 conditioning unit in our IT down here. They put it in the roof because they need extra cooling in there, and they weren't getting the extra cooling. That's been taken care of. Our complaints on orders within any of these buildings has virtually gone away, and we did have done some testing. We paid for some of that over there. Southside restrooms, I already mentioned that. We also did the plumbing. The plumbing sinks weren't working in the custodial area. We replaced that in there. The jail water heater, that was a needed upgrade, and that too was about a $40,000 repair because it's a huge system and it couldn't wait. That was an emergency repair on it. Jumped down to the juvenile centers. We did do a fair amount of, you folks that do go over there for your meetings know that we did some monitoring in the entryway, made it more secure for the administrative staff there, and we did do some upgrades to the heating and cooling system. There's more work that needs to be done there, but made some real progress. Family Fitness Center, the heating and cooling software was upgraded. We upgraded the floor coverings and the paint. A lot of floor coverings and a lot of paint and things over there. A lot of outlets. And the elevator refurbishing, you approved that just not too long ago, and that's in progress. Now, with that, that was not paid for out of the bonding money of 3.2. Because what we plan to do with your agreement was that we will charge that to the Family Service Center. The debt has been paid off in that building, and we think that should be charged to that building, and that the tenant should be covered in the rent. We're hopeful of that. You jump down to motor vehicle, you are all well aware of the improvements that were made there. We replaced the roof, we remodeled the parking lot, we did just a ton of work out there. And then the Barnesville Highway Shop, we kind of forgotten about that, but we did talk about some dollars, $2 million to help out that. So that was a biggie. We have exhausted the $3.2 million in the bonding. There will be, and I'll bring the exact figures on that when we get there, but there will be some of the parking lot and things that will be spent out of Fund 19. That's the $100,000 capital improvement out of motor vehicle. As of right now, like I said, we have exhausted Fund 30, and as of last week, we have collected about $500,000 to the Fund 19. That's the $100,000. We had expended about $297,000 of that, so we are sitting with a balance of around $200,000 in there. And so we'll probably be taking $30,000 to $40,000 out of there to finish off the parking lot and after we move the monies around. So we're still, it appears like we're really staying, I shouldn't say we're really staying ahead, we're staying ahead of the game on the capital improvements. And I guess if you have any questions, Joe and George are here, and they really help me with this update on that. So any questions, we certainly try to answer.
Well, I'm impressed by this report. I mean, we've only got one thing that's left to do that was planned for up through 15. We still got a year to do that, which sounds like my role will be handled yet this year. Priority 3, man, gosh, that allowed us to go until 25, and and we've got some of those things done already. So it's impressive that this plan has really worked, and I would encourage that we continue to do that kind of long-term planning for.
On your elevator project, have we had any more problems with the elevator? I mean, we haven't redone the elevator yet, but are there still problems with the elevator?
To tell you the truth, I haven't been informed of those. I don't know. Okay, she's shaking her head, yes.
Okay. I just wonder how that's working, because that's taking a while.
I have a question too about the elevator, and I used it the other day. I was wondering when they do start it, are they going to be, is one elevator going to be functioning all the time?
All the time. That's required by the bid. Yes.
Right.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll move into committee reports. Frank, can we start with you this morning?
Yeah, at the University of Minnesota there, we had, main thing there, we're going to a part-time position. They had a resignation of the part-time position. Now we've got to set up interviews for another one. And other than that, we just gave reports by every department, gave a report. At FM COG, there we went over the year-to-date financial. We're setting up interviews for a new director or CEO this afternoon. There's interviews, and I also went to the naturalization ceremony out at University of Minnesota Moorhead, which was sort of impressive, where 45 people were admitted to give them citizenship. Nice ceremony.
Tuesday, September 16th, Local Advisory Council of Adult Mental Health, general business. Then we had agency reports from the Social Connection, Lakeland Mental Health Solutions, Moorhead Police Department, Clay County Social Services, and ARMS. Allison Wilbeck was elected co-chair. Financial update from BCOW, which is Becker, Clay, Otter Tail, and Wilton counties, and the funding in the future will be cut slightly from them. Thursday, September 18th, Lake Agassiz Regional Library Board meeting, basically a routine meeting. We had general business, a financial report, director's report, president's report, and then reports from board members. And all is going well at the Lake Agassiz Regional Library.
Okay.
Last week, following the meeting, we had a SWAC meeting, and went over a number of issues that we need to be addressing in the near future. And some of these issues are things that have been long-term problems out there. For instance, with the methane collection and other things like that we finally are addressing, and I think it's really encouraging. We also had highway tracking that morning, talking about future buildings for our maintenance, highway maintenance equipment and so on. And that's a long-term kind of thing, but we need to determine where the best location is to have our structures as we replace those that need a replacement. So that's something we'll be hearing more about. There was an Ag Committee subcommittee meeting for the Land Management Committee last week, and we went over, had a really good report from the engineers about updates on the hydrology and things that we're looking at, trying to determine the total negative effect on the farms in the staging area, and trying to find ways in which we can mitigate some of that problem. Extension meeting last Wednesday, Frank already mentioned that, and this we were really fortunate. The halftime position we filled last summer got vacated soon after, because the person got a full-time job, which is always going to be a problem when we have half-time positions, that if there's a full-time job available, people are often going to be leaving us. But we did get a replacement immediately on the interim, and now they're positioned to be interviewing, as Frank is going to be part of that, interviewing for the permanent half-time position. There was a conference call last Thursday for the Executive Committee of the Basin Commission, and that was pretty much routine kinds of issues that they were working with. We did have a meeting in Comstock with the City Council and the Diversion Authority to go over some of the long-term concerns that the village and the community there have in regard to being a part of the staging area. And so the city had a chance to list the things that they're most concerned about and that they will require in mitigation if this project goes forward. So that was a positive meeting, I think. A lot of people had a chance to be heard that felt they hadn't been heard before. Yesterday there was a Lakeland Board meeting down in Glenwood, and we had besides routine business, we had a presentation by our auditors. They have a person on staff who's an expert on the Accountable Care Act, and they spent about an hour going over trying to explain how the Accountable Care Act was working and what possibilities it has in the future for improved care and reduced costs. And of course, some of the realities in the interim are not as encouraging, but it still looks like it's on the right track, and that eventually this will show to be beneficial to everybody. That's it.
Okay.
Let's see, Kevin and I had a meeting with county staff on the property tax abatement with the city of Moorhead, and everybody, all the county staff were pretty positive about it, and we had discussed that today at the meeting this morning. And then I had a state community health advisory meeting last week, and I've been part of that public health emergency preparedness committee to deal with the funding formula that comes from the federal government, and there was some lively debate about that again at this meeting. It didn't pass last spring when we had made a proposal, but everything went pretty well at this meeting, so I think we'll be moving forward with that. So that was it for me.
Okay, and I had the same highway tracking meeting that John talked about, and the same solid waste meeting that John talked about. And I had the same abatement committee meeting that Grant just talked about. So those two covered the three meetings that I was at. And, you know, I know there's, I just want to add that in the highway tracking committee meeting there is some dialogue going on about one of our facilities in the Hawley area. That's there's some interest from the Hawley Fire Department in looking at part of our property there, but that's more to that to come later. But that's all that I have. Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, solid waste meeting that we had met, me, Commissioner Campbell, Commissioner, myself, met with the Kirk Rosenberg, the director, and I think you're all aware that you did approve this bid for a scale being put in out there. In fact, that's going along really well. That'll be up and running, and of course they're doing a lot of work with the circulation system out there. The methane gas burned off, and there's some pipes setting, and they're working with Mike pretty feverishly to try to correct that. And I think there's a meeting tomorrow, Wednesday afternoon, over at Prairie Lakes that you joined here at the burner. And there's going to be an open house over there, and there could be some people going over for that. So there's a lot of things that are being worked on, talking about how paint is going to be handled out at the household management building out there as well. And then on the highway meeting, we attended that as well, and not too much more there, but if you saw, I don't know if you saw in the paper, but the Tiger grants have been granted from the federal level, and Minnesota received two of them, a $10 million bridge project, I think it was in the Twin City areas, and then a $500,000 study grant. So we or Moorhead missed out on, we're not selected for the Tiger grant. Other than that, there's construction updates. And an ATV club was interested. We talked about that a little bit too at the meeting, about one of the gravel pits, and there will be more discussion on that as well. We had a meeting that's been talked about, the housing abatement program. You had all on that. We had a couple sessions of training, reference our employee assistance program, and I thought it went extremely well. We had about 100 of our employees trained or just updated. It was just kind of an hour update. And then the supervisors had a special session in addition to that. And if you know anything about the Employees Assistance Program, that we pay for that, I guess, in our MCIT premium, and it allows the employees and their family members to seek some assistance in the event that they are having problems with some things on a personal level. I think it's a very, very, very valuable program, and I'm glad the county endorses that. Had some employee meetings referencing roster employees and things. In fact, Darren and I met with Dave out of Highway reference that because they are sharing an employee with the county attorney's office. And we have to keep a close eye on that. Had an administrative advisory meeting with the diversion last Thursday morning, and also had a hardship committee meeting yesterday afternoon, and there was an application that was on the Minnesota side, and we can certainly ask you more about that, but they had met a couple weeks ago in regards to it, and they tabled it for more information, and yesterday the hardship committee approved going forward with that property to be purchased. I don't know if you're aware of that, Commissioner Everett, or not, but we can talk a little bit about that. And then Nancy and Jenny and I referenced this closed session and discussed several of those things. So we have a survey meeting, or surveyors, how we're going to handle the surveyor right after this. And that's about it, Mr. Peter.
All right. Vicki? Ben?
No, okay.
All right.